Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Block Runner, and today we're going to be talking about AMP, which is actually very, very interesting. There's a lot of stuff happening with it right now, but
This is right up your alley too, isn't it? Like,
just a little bit, just because I guess the developers of AMP are actually deploying it within their own product, and we're going to talk about that in a second here. But first, let's just take a look at kind of like the coin metrics here. So AMP, it's a market cap of $2.2 billion. It's already kind of high. But this is a token that launched relatively recently, like the beginning of February.
mm,
And it went up to $1 billion, crashed to like $800 million, and then now it's at $2.2 billion. So imagine your token, I-Man, crashing to $800 million. What would you say to
sad day
that?
that would be.
Yeah.
Very sad. I don't have to imagine too hard, dude. I've been through many of those.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I don't think
for,
you've owned an $800 million project, but I get what you mean.
yeah, I've felt pain
Yeah, yeah,
essentially.
yeah. I don't know how painful this is though. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like it goes to a billion, then it crashes to 800 million.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's like micro pain.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So this is nothing.
yeah. So let's see. So let's go to the website. Anything else we want to talk about here? Um, they have what is that? 99 billion max token supply. That's kind of hefty.
Yeah, but I see. I don't think the purpose of talking about them is really in the sense that I don't know. Maybe it is important to talk about their current day valuation, just because
Well, the market
lot
that
more, there's a lot more market potential even today, right?
yeah.
Because I'm gonna make like a pretty bold statement about this project, I guess, here in a little bit.
Okay.
So I guess you'd have to make comparables to that, right? Right now they're sitting around 2 billion, but if they achieve what we think they're aiming to achieve, there's a lot more upside from here.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So what do they do exactly? So
Yeah.
AMP is a collateral for fast and efficient value transfer. I think this is like a very underwhelming sort of like one liner for AMP in terms of what they do.
Yeah.
Just because
How
it's
many
so
people?
obscure, like collateral for fast and efficient value transfer is like what does that mean exactly?
Yeah. Well, who are the parties who would be most interested in utilizing this collateral, right? In your mind, what do you think?
Well, it's so fast and efficient value transfer. So what needs to be fast? You would think of payments, right? Whenever you go shopping at a store, you need speed. Both the user and the merchant needs speed, right?
Mhm.
Because if there's no speed, then the lines get extremely long. Then you have like really angry customers, right? So
Yeah. Imagine if the user experience we're used to on Ethereum translated to the real world.
yeah,
Imagine like the freaking mass
like riots.
violence that would occur.
Yeah,
It took you an hour to get your shopping done.
yeah. You gotta
People would be
wait for
killing
20
each other.
confirmations, sir, before you can leave.
Yeah, screw that, dude.
Yeah,
That is not the world we can live in. You
right.
know, so we need solutions, right?
Yeah, so this is kind of underpinning that foundational aspect of fast and efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So instant verifiable assurances compatible with any asset, like that's important, right? This could be from buying groceries to potentially buying a house. So I don't know why you would need speed when buying a house, but maybe one day you're going to be buying houses on a smart contract, and within like a minute, like you can complete that transaction,
Mm.
right? That's kind of where we want to head to, but and it's built for the long term. So let's see what project is kind of leveraging this technology. And so it looks like Flexa will actually build this AMP token, right? Developed by Flexa and Consensus. So going to the Flexa's website, what do? They're the global leader in pure digital payments. So Flexa offers the fastest and most fraud-proof payment network in the world. So it's a guaranteed settlements, flexible integrations, and USD and Canadian dollars. So one of the main things here is it seems like they're offering a payments point of sale system to the merchants, and obviously the customers will have to download this application to kind of leverage it.
So what's the point of sale? That's the terminal that you and I are used to whenever we go to the store, right? It's
Yeah,
where we
it's
swipe our card through.
yeah, it's this thing. So that point of sale is connected to the ones that we've all seen, the ones we've been interacting with for the last 70 years have been through the Visa and MasterCard network. And so you want to talk about legacy systems, that's a legacy system that we interact with every single day. And so they've done a good job of making the transactions fast. I remember when we were doing swipe transactions to chip and pin, and the chip and pin used to be really slow. Now it's like pretty fast. But now you have Flexa, who's leveraging blockchain network to facilitate these transactions for the merchant. So the merchant has to deal with a bunch of like chargebacks, and a chargeback is essentially when a customer buys something and they call their credit card and say, I didn't actually buy it, and then the credit card company forces a chargeback. And so then the merchant has to dispute it. And if they don't dispute it, then they have to pay it back to the customer. And so there's friendly version of fraud, which is you actually go buy that TV and then you call your credit card company and say, I didn't actually buy the TV, but you did. That's friendly fraud. And so then there's actual real fraud. When you lose your card, then people can, buy stuff with your card, and then that's like actual fraud. So what they do, Flexa, is they don't allow that to happen, right? It's a guaranteed settlement. So if transactions through the Flexa network happen, the merchant ends up getting that money. And there's no chargebacks. So this is a value add to the merchant. It's not so much for the user who ends up maybe fronting the cost for fraud in the case of a Flexo user. So that's another interesting, and it looks like they're not going through the Visa and MasterCard network. So potentially the merchant is saving that 3% fee that they would otherwise pay when somebody's using a credit card. So all this to say is that Flex is addressing a multi-trillion-dollar market here. And so going back to the AMP token price at $2 billion, I mean, this is still a microcap in comparison to what they're trying to actually achieve.
What changes from the adoption of this? Like, let's say every future merchant or every existing merchant all of a sudden is on board with Flex's offering, and like the fact that they're utilizing the AMP network to pretty much assure that, their transactions are covered, right? No matter what.
So what assures them that these transactions are going to be actually covered? Well, it's through the collateral system that is underpinned through the AMP token. So anyone holding the AMP token is contributing their collateral to AMP, and therefore contributing collateral to Flexa. And so in the case of Flexa, they're saying because transactions are like fully backed and fully collateralized, they can guarantee to the merchant that they're actually going to receive the funds no matter what. And so that's the value add that Flex is providing to the merchants. And then as far as the user, well, you get to spend your money in kind of like a friendlier way. So what they have is essentially QR codes for payments. So with any phone that has a camera, you can make payments using Flexa. So there's no contact. You don't have to like swipe anything. You don't have to dip anything. And it's a little bit more friendlier.
So I wonder how this settlement is actually handled between the merchant and like the network.
Yeah.
Yeah, the network of essentially liquidity providers, right? Like, the people provide liquidity to these automated market makers, and there's really not much interfacing with them, right? It's all automated, from us, like the end users, whenever we do our token swaps.
Right.
We don't really there's no process to it, right? It's an interface, input, output. What's happening on the back end is what the collateral providers or the liquidity providers, that's what they're supporting.
Right.
So like in this sense, like what is it? Is there like a back end like interface for these merchants, like in the event that there's some kind of like chargeback, you said, right?
Yeah.
So some kind of issue where now there's like a payment discrepancy. Like how are these merchants tapping into these collateral providers essentially? Like I would like to know the mechanics of that, right?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think what they're doing is by providing the collateral from the AMP network, merchants can tap into it if just like the way that they can fight back on a chargeback. So I'm assuming that if on their balance sheet says, well, today I made $20,000, and through the Flexa network, if there's any like issue from a breach or anything like that, they know for sure that they're guaranteed the $20,000 because the user walked away with the merchandise. And so if there's any potential problems with the $20,000, Flex is guaranteeing that they will receive their balance, right, for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so how that happens, I mean, it isn't exactly the most clear, but a lot of DeFi is like very complicated to explain, right?
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and so it's interesting that this is like actually, on their homepage, there's like 41,000 locations already like leveraging this network.
Really? Okay. So that's what I was kind of going to get at. Like, as far as like indicators you need to be aware of whether or not this is actually going to catch on, right?
Yeah.
That being one of them. How many merchants are actually onboarding onto this, ecosystem?
Yeah.
41,000. Are there any big ones here that you could name out that were, are highly relatable? Like, do they have a?
I don't think they've disclosed who, but the fact that they're accepting USD and Canadian dollars, I mean, you can kind of already tell like it's in the our side of town, right?
Yeah.
So connect to Flexo through these top payment providers. So NCR, Clover. I know Clover very well. Shopify partners. Let's see some other ones.
You said Shopify?
Yeah, Shopify is one of them.
Interesting. So that's kind of like the big identifying what it is they're trying to build here. Like, can we foresee a future where Flexa, the Flexa payment interface, whatever it is so ubiquitous in the same sense that PayPal is today, right?
Yeah.
Can Flexa emerge as the PayPal of the blockchain industry?
Yeah.
I think that's what they're internally, that's their goal, right? If you're in the payments industry, you want to be that, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, that's a huge speculative point to this video, is that Flexa potentially could be the PayPal in the blockchain space to kind of start onboarding the different merchants out there who are a little bit more tech savvy, a little bit more like within the times, and maybe have a customer base who play with cryptocurrencies in a way. And so,
I mean, there's a big one now, right? I mean, almost everyone I know in my life now is a crypto holder, right?
Oh, really? That's good.
Oh yeah, like it's especially now because Doge happened. It's permeated everything. So it's inescapable at this point, and I know merchants are aware of that. People are holding cryptocurrency. The quicker we could figure out how to get them to actually start spending these things, on actual, economic activities.
Yeah.
I mean, the better for the whole economy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Flexa has a tall order to convince merchants. It's not easy, and but there's a huge value add for what they're providing. If they can, I think I mentioned in one of our past videos that the merchant network, they have largely the brick and mortar locations have margins within like 3 to 6%, right? That's their margins for their business. And if you can return to them 3% for credit card transactions back without the impending fraud potential, right? If you're not worried about that from a merchant perspective, you're actually returning 50% on their bottom line. So that's a lot of money. So, and that's what I feel like blockchain provides to these merchants, right? There's no chargebacks because blockchain transactions are immutable and they're irreversible. But to move a huge network like that into the blockchain space, it's not easy. And there's been a lot of companies who tried this in the past, and they haven't been successful just because, I mean, it's that hard. And plus, back in 2017 when a lot of these projects did emerge, that it was so early still, like super early in the crypto business, that it was still, people were speculating that crypto was just like a fad, and still at that time in 2017. And I think it's largely considered like cryptocurrencies is not going to go away. So something like this has a little bit more stickiness than it did in 2017.
Okay. And also, like, there's other use cases for this collateral network, right? It doesn't not necessarily only to ensure payments. There's some alternate use case for this. Obviously collateral is important, right? Like, we could use it to cover a lot of different scenarios, different sectors and stuff like that.
That's true. Like, one of them using is Cream Finance. And so Cream is one user. They're tapping into AMP's collateral system in order to support Cream. And just recently, they had like a vote. Let's see if I can find it real quick. 1 second here. Here it is. So it says proposal for increasing the collateral factor of AMP from 0% to 45% on Ethereum is up. So if you click on this, it'll take you to the voting poll here, and it looks like increased collateral factor of AMP to 45% for and against, and we had pretty much a unanimous decision. So so there's other people leveraging AMP's kind of collateral system. So it's not just Flexo by themselves.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right, well, this is definitely one to keep an eye on. But yeah, man, if I'm definitely keeping an eye on Flexa if they can, emerge as like a PayPal-esque, servicer,
Yeah, this is like early days for something like this.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Even though this is like a blue chip type valuation.
You think 2 billion is blue chip status? No, not really.
Well, not really. I mean, it's not blue chip, but still 2 billion is not nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, that's the point in the sense like it's pretty high up there. So I mean, they're gonna have to pull off some massive feats, right, to increase that valuation over time. But I mean, but the potential value of it it's huge. You called it. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry to tap into.
Right. Right.
If you could solidify your foothold into that space and like actually provide some value service to the merchants, I mean, that's a big fucking deal.
Yeah, for sure. And think about it, it's not a whole lot for the merchant to do. All they need is a screen to display a QR code. And if your customers have Flexa, well, they can pay with Flexa, right? You can accept both networks, right? Visa and MasterCard and Flexa. So it's not a huge like thing for a merchant to change or add to their, I guess, systems. It's more about like, do merchants recognize that crypto is like an emerging space? And if they do, then Flexa might make sense for them. And especially if their demographic is like crypto knowledgeable people, then there's a higher chance that people will accept using Flexa for payments.
Yeah. And I guess in the event that happens, then yeah, it just further solidifies AMP as like an ecosystem, I guess. Or you dive a little deeper into the actual how the ecosystem works. It mimics all the other ecosystems we've already talked about, like the graph, Chainlink.
That's right.
It's a multi-actor ecosystem where their incentives are aligned, right? It's just that's how it works. That's how you organize within a decentralized ecosystem.
Yeah,
and still output like desirable results, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's the video for today. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us on Twitter at The Block Runner and also at MetaZone.io. We got a couple more things that we're going to be talking about this week, so make sure you subscribe and let us know what you think about AMP. And we will catch you in the next video.
Peace.